All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're talking about a book that honestly just took the world by storm, John Green's The Fault in Our Stars. We're going to unpack exactly why this 2012 novel hit so hard, looking at everything from its unforgettable characters to the philosophy behind it all.
See, the whole story really boils down to this one huge question. This is something we all think about, right? But for the characters in this book, it's not some far-off philosophical thing. It's their everyday reality. And this very question is going to be our guide through this whole analysis.
So let's start there. Let's frame this whole thing as a search for an answer to that very question.
You know, what makes this book so incredibly powerful is that it's not really a story about cancer. I mean, that's the setting, sure, but it's really a lens, a way to look at something way bigger, the whole human experience. It's a story about how young people think, how they fall in love, and how on earth they're supposed to find meaning when the future is anything but guaranteed.
Now, let's get into the story itself and meet the two people at the absolute heart of this search.
And right away, you see the core conflict that drives everything. You've got Hazel Grace, who is terrified of becoming a grenade, of hurting the people she loves when she's gone. And then you have Augustus Waters, who has this totally opposite fear, the fear of being forgotten, of just disappearing into oblivion. It's these two completely different anxieties about death that pull them together and fuel all their big philosophical conversations.
So what kicks off their whole adventure? It's this shared obsession with a fictional book, a book that just stops. It ends mid-sentence, and this becomes the perfect mirror for their own lives, doesn't it? Their desperate need to know how the story ends is really just a metaphor for them trying to figure out their own futures, to find some kind of closure in the face of so much uncertainty.
And this journey brings us to the really big ideas in the book. How does the story even try to answer that huge question about living a meaningful life?
Man, this book does not pull any punches. It dives headfirst into some seriously heavy stuff. We're talking about mortality, that fear of being forgotten, what love even is when you know time is short. But it does it all with this incredible honesty and wit that it worked. It really resonated with people. And it makes this powerful argument that you are not your illness. And here's a really crucial point. The book isn't offering some magic fix. Love here isn't a solution to suffering. Instead, it's presented as the one thing that makes facing all that pain worth it. Their love feels so urgent and so profound because their time is limited, not in spite of it. That ticking clock makes every single moment count.
This is another one of the book's most powerful messages. Hazel, especially, just refuses to be defined by her cancer. She insists that her illness is a side effect of her life, not the main event. And that's just such a powerful statement about dignity and about the simple human need to be seen as a whole person.
Okay, so we've talked about what the story is about. Now let's get into the how, because the way John Green tells this story is a huge part of its power.
The voice of this book is just so distinct. The language feels simple on the surface, but it's absolutely packed with these big philosophical ideas. The dialogue is super sharp, almost stylized, and the characters use this dark, self-aware humor as a way to cope. And that balance is key. It's what keeps a story about death from becoming, well, just completely bleak.
Of course, no book is for everyone, right? On the one hand, it's praised for being so emotionally powerful and honest. The dialogue, unforgettable. But on the flip side, some critics felt the metaphors could be a little too obvious, and let's be real, the teenagers can seem a little too perfectly well-spoken at times. It's a style that you either absolutely connect with, or it might not quite click for you.
So, when you put all that together, what's the final takeaway? Let's get to the verdict and the story's really profound answer to our opening question.
The critical consensus is overwhelmingly positive. We're talking a strong 4.5 out of 5. It's really recognized as a major work in young adult literature, one that respects its audience enough to tackle these big, difficult questions head-on.
And this quote just nails it. This is so much more than a love story. It's a meditation on what it means to matter. The book somehow manages to be both absolutely heartbreaking and incredibly life-affirming. It's tragic, for sure, but it's also filled with so much warmth and wit that you walk away feeling not depressed, but deeply moved.
And here it is, the beautiful, simple answer to that question we started with. The novel argues that you don't need a long life or a grand, heroic legacy to matter. Meaning isn't measured in how long you live, but in depth. It's about finding what the book calls a little infinity within a small number of days.
Ultimately, the novel turns that question back to us.
It challenges the whole idea that a lasting mark has to be something huge or famous. Instead, it suggests that maybe the deepest marks we leave are on the people we love. And that's a powerful thought to end on. Thanks for joining me.